Testing. Let me know if you cannot hear me. My mic is being weird. Hi guys, I'm Ray, and we are streaming blacksmithing. Um, so we have finished up our hammer for the time being. Aside from a bunch of um, grinding and handling of that hammer. So I will do that off stream. I'm going to be struggling with the woodworking part of the handle making because I'm not amazingly good with woodworking in general. So I'm going to struggle with that on like the weekend, probably this next weekend. And we're going to get that all taken care of so we can start using it pretty quick. In the meantime, I'm going to continue using my regular hammer. Pretty good. My favorite part of Monday just started. Excellent. I'm glad to hear that, Corwin. Welcome to the stream. So today we are going to be making a set of pickup tongs. So my set of pickup tongs that we use for the hammer are these guys right here, and these guys were just not adequate for picking up the size of stock that we were trying to do. It just kept spinning around in these jaws, and these tongs were not holding the stock adequately. So we're gonna do a new set. We're going to start with 5/8 inch square stock. Honestly, I could not tell you how many centimeters that is. But they are 8 inches long. And I don't know, I guess I could do the calculations. I apologize. I really should just like automatically do the calculations. I was going to, Hey, Sandwich, welcome to the stream. I was going to do all this calculations and stuff, start doing that since so many of you guys are European and you use like, metric, inches, 2 centimeters, and we're going to do, I need a calculator, dude. I need a calculator. Haha. Okay. So 5/8 is 1.58 centimeters, and then they are 20.32 centimeters long. So that's what it is in metric. And yeah, something to that effect anyway. I don't know. I feel like centimeters are smaller than inches, so 5 point whatever does not seem about right for the 8 feet or 8 inches. So maybe I'm doing it backwards. I don't know. I'm sorry, guys. Evening. Anyway, so we are going to make a set of pickup tongs out of these guys. And the set of pickup tongs that I'm going to do, they're going to be a lot more square than round like the other set. So hopefully it'll pick up the steel a little bit better. I think it's going to be the same shape in general as these guys, but it's going to be a little bit more rectangular profile on the little like tongy section, and it's going to be a little bit thicker and wider on the little pickup parts. So yeah, that's what we're going to try and do today. My goal is to use all of the tricks in my book and get these done by the end of this week. So unless something unsightly happens, like the internet crashes for whatever reason, because it did last night again, although it was storming, so I'm hoping that that's what it was. Anyway, I'm going to do one today, one Wednesday, and then we're going to put them together on Friday. That is our goal. So the first thing that we're going to do is start the forge in like 6 seconds. If you use pickup tongs skillfully, does that make you a pickup artist? It definitely does, man. It definitely makes me a pickup artist for a very specific set of people. I think that a good set of tongs is quite attractive. So I'm sure that there's at least one other person who thinks that. So we're gonna get started on this forge. I think the ad is gonna start here shortly. Maybe I can get this done quick enough. Or not. All right, well, I guess I'm not gonna get this done before the ad starts. It's totally because my fan is being dumb. Come on. Come on. Why? Don't be stupid. All right, well, I'm going to try this again once this ad is done. Goodness gracious. The struggle is real today, guys. It is super hot today. It is, what temperature is it today? It says it's 96 degrees Fahrenheit today, which is like, you know, slightly less than, it's probably about 35 degrees Celsius, which is relatively hot. So yeah. Super hot, and the forge is only going to make it worse. But I am dedicated to you guys, and we are going to get some pickup tongs made. All right, it looks like we got about 10 seconds left before this stupid, or the ad end. So I'm going to try and start this forge, because by the time I get this started, the stupid, come on, goodness gracious, guys, I'm struggling. Why is this not working? Come on. Jeez Louise. Well, fine. I really hate doing things this way, because you know what? It's kind of on the dangerous side. At least for me. Come on. You're supposed to catch. There we go. And we're not happy with that either. There we go. Much more better. Ugh. And this is why I don't do that way. Ugh. So messy. Not a big fan of kindling. I also really have to pay attention to where it goes when it starts flying off like that. Make sure that it doesn't set anything else on fire. So I'm going to put that guy right there. And maybe I'll pull this out here, stick it on the floor, and stomp it out. Dangerous, don't do this. There we go. All right, no more fires. Coming back from ads doesn't seem I miss much. No. Is that thing empty? For a short moment, I could smell the burning paper. Yeah, that's why I don't use kindling. A lot of people will start their forges with kindling, but it just like goes everywhere, and it's a fire hazard. I just don't like it. So that's why I usually use the Benzematic, like, plumber's torch. And I think that it might be running low on gas, and that may be why it wasn't wanting to light. So I guess I'll have to buy a new can. But yeah, all the kindling is gone. There is no more fire hanging out. So all we have is just the forge going now. That's our only fire. Alrighty. What is that word? Kindling. I don't know it. Kindling is just like the little bits of like little pieces of wood or paper or leaves that get your fire started. Like usually it's used with for in regards to like campfires and things like that. But you can use kindling for barbecues, for forges, for just regular bonfires, whatever. I'm a little crazy and I use the torch starter, the thing that you squeeze to make a spark to start my forge. See, I used to have like one of those long kitchen lighters for starting like gas stoves. And I used to use that for the longest time, but I could never keep enough of the liquid in there. And so I just started using the butane torches, or I guess the propane torches. Anyway, they last for a lot longer, but eventually they do run out, and so I think I'm gonna need to buy another bottle. They're like $3 at the hardware store. So I mean, I think it's the bottle, but it could also be the tap, the torch part of it. I've had that thing for like almost 20 years at this point, and because I bought it not for blacksmithing, I bought that thing for wax welding when I was in school. So that was almost 20 years ago. It's crazy, you know. So there is, a chance that maybe I just need to get a different torch tip. And I'm pretty sure that I do, regardless of whether that bottle is empty or not, because when I try and turn off the gas on that tip, it still keeps going for quite some time before it runs out. So I think that I just need to buy an entire new plumber's torch setup. So I am 99.9% sure that none of that, ash from the burning paper towel is like still smoldering places. But if you guys happen to see, any fire that is not supposed to be there, let me know. Oh, goodness gracious. So this weekend was ridiculous. On Saturday, we were actually able to pick up the van. It is directly behind the camera right now. So I'm going to turn the camera around so you guys can kind of see it. And let's see if I can do that without unplugging things and without making it ridiculously. So you guys can totally see that right there. That's the new van. Check that out. Isn't that exciting? You can kind of see the bulkhead in the back. Yeah. And then we're going to go pan through of my entire shop because, might as well, right? Bring it down towards the anvil. All right. Got that nice tilt. So that's the new van. So that's really exciting. I'm really excited to build that out into a camper so we can drive that out to all of the different blacksmithing events that we do every few months or so. We're definitely, the goal is to get it built out to the point where we can use it for quad state in September. So that's like September 25th-ish. So we got just over a month to go. So we've got all of August, most of September to build that out. So we're going to insulate it, put a bed in, some storage, a desk. So that's really exciting. So we picked that up on Saturday, and then during that pan, you probably also saw the new drill press that I added to the shop. I bought that because I wanted to start working on the raise sign, and I have to drill a whole bunch of holes in a flat sheet of steel. So I decided that instead of using my hand drill, I was going to use a drill press. So we picked that up. I filmed myself unboxing it, putting it together, and we're also filming the process of making that sign. It's not done yet, so I've got a little bit more to do. I'm hoping that I get a decent chunk of it done tomorrow. But I gotta put together 2 videos, one on the drill press and one on the raised smithy sign. So you guys can look forward to that on YouTube in the coming weeks. Let's see. So yeah, it was a stupid busy week this weekend, and so I'm a little bit on the tired side. Welcome in, Yankee. Yeah, the van is pretty big, but we bought it specifically to make into a camper. So, like, we needed it to be big enough that we could put like a full-size bed in it, like a full bed in it. And we can actually almost fit one sideways, like from wheelbase to wheelbase, as opposed to from the front of the cab to the back doors. So that way we're gonna have a little bit more room to put like a little desk for editing and some other sitting room and stuff like that. So I'm really excited to get working on the van, and we will definitely do a couple videos on that as well. Like a build video and maybe a tour video or something like that. So it should be a fun time. All right. We're starting to get a little bit of heat on that end of the piece of stock. So I want to wait just a few more minutes to get it nice and golden yellow, or not golden yellow, but more like a lemon yellow color, so that we can get a lot of work done in there. I haven't decided whether I'm going to do a lot of this piece hand hammered or if I'm going to work on it on the press. So we're probably going to do a little bit of both. I really want to start here on the anvil, and we'll see. We'll see what happens. I really just want to get one side of it done today. That's the goal. Alrighty. So yeah, it's one of those Mondays where I feel like I haven't, stopped working since last Friday, because every single day of the weekend I was doing stuff in the shop and like for the channel and everything. So, some weekends it's like that. I'll get a break next weekend, at least one day of a break next weekend, I think. So how was you guys' weekend? Corwin showed me some of his work. He posted it in a DM to me over Discord. I think he should post it in the projects in our Discord so that all of you guys can see as well. See, I think that he should be proud of his work, And if you guys have work that you've done over the weekend, feel free to post that in the Discord as well. We do. Didn't want to spam it. That's all right. You can spam the work channel. I like to see all of the different stuff that you guys are up to. Feel free to post your work and stuff that you think is inspiring by other artists as well, you know? Man, I am sweating already, man. All right. I'm going to pull this steel. We're not going to get as much work done. It's still in the orange stages, so it's a little bit colder than I want it to be. I probably should have started the forge earlier before I started the stream like we've been doing, but, you know, it's been a while since you guys have seen me start it. So, you know, I figured I'd give you that. Like I said, kind of on the orange side. You know what? I totally forgot to change the cameras. I'm a smarty. Like I said, it's been a Monday. As this is pretty small, couldn't you also use a small forge? I think it makes the piece hotter as well. It definitely does make the piece a little bit hotter. The reason that I'm using the big forge instead of the small one is because the small one kind of gives a smaller amount of heat. And when this guy is fully hot, it does actually give a much larger section of heat for me to work with. And I figured that I would want to work the entire piece at the same time if possible. If it decide or later on, I could decide to change which forge we're using. I mean, if I feel like the mailbox will work a little bit better for this project, I might change later. But I was using the mailbox yesterday, and I was only really getting about this much heat, and I'd like to get more like this much heat if I can manage it. Is that the new hammer? I missed it being finished. No, this one is still my old faithful hammer. I do actually have the finished hammer. Let me go grab that for you guys so I can show it to you if I... There it went. I moved it so I could... I moved it so I could get to the grinder. Here, let me do this. So you should be able to see that right there. So the handle is going to go on in this direction. So if you can kind of tell, the bottom cross peen section is a little bit lower in this orientation than it would be in this orientation. And I think it's going to be a little bit easier to use if I handle it this direction, right? So we've kind of got an octagonal face. This is probably going to, I'm going to round this guy out so it's more of a rounded hammer. And then I need to grind this off and make this into that cross peen. We've got some really pretty sharp edges on here. Definitely going to get rid of those at the grinder. But yeah, this is the finished hammer. It changed a little bit since, you know, since we were working on it, but that's it. That looks nice. Thank you guys. I do need 2 mailboxes. Freak Dolt. Hi, Array. Please say you are not going to make that awful fiberglass handle. Made a decision yet? Yeah, I am definitely not going to be doing a fiberglass handle. If worse comes to worse, because I don't have a really good piece of stock or like wood stock to make a handle out of. But if worse comes to worse, I'll probably make a temporary handle out of something like this. This is a 2x2 of just regular stock that I got at the hardware store. I think this is like what, pine? So this would break like ridiculously fast, but it would be okay for maybe a temporary handle. I prefer hickory because hickory has that good shock absorbing But I have to figure out a place that I can get a hold of that. I gotta order some, or I do have a sawmill that's about an hour and a half away from me in a place called Grafton. And so we'll see if I can't find a piece of hickory or another harder wood that I can use to make a good handle for it. Not ideal, but if you know, worse comes to worse and I've got nothing else, it's better than fiberglass. You could probably find a replacement handle and customize it to your hand and the eye. I mean, I probably could. Proto handle is part of learning here. Yeah, I'm really awful at woodworking in general. So, I mean, even if I do end up with a nice handle, there is a chance that I could actually just make a pine handle to practice making a handle. Just because most of the time when I'm doing woodworking, I have to do everything twice because I always screw it up. So, yeah. There are reasons that I'm a blacksmith and not a woodworker, you know? All right, let's do another heat. This time I'm going to change the view. Use a baseball bat. I think of all of the laughs. Yes, I could definitely use a baseball bat. Just got to be careful that I don't end up with one of those cork ones. Yeah, we're not getting enough heat yet. So, I don't know. Maybe working on the mailbox would be better. I don't know. Let's try that. Now we're going to have to deal with all of this other shit. No Yankee bat. Got it. See, I'm not gonna get into who's using corkbacks and who's not. I don't know enough about baseball. All right. So I don't think this is hot enough. So I think maybe I will use the mailbox. We'll see. We'll see if that works a little better. Because yeah, we're definitely not getting hot enough forge right now. Also, I'm a little bit short on propane today. Like I said, I was doing a little bit of forging yesterday, and so I did use a little bit. So, and I was using the mailbox yesterday, so it's efficient, but it's still, you know, time spent, I guess. All right, let's see about this. Hooking up the mailbox. Doing this as fast as possible so we can get back to work. But the hotter this piece, the faster it'll work. Whew. All right. Let's do that. Maybe we'll have enough. I don't know. Let's see if I can manage this time. Doesn't look like it, man. Doesn't look like it. All right. How's this bottle? Is this bottle got more? try this. That way I don't burn myself. Melmex might be perfect for when you're low on propane. It'll sip the gas at a lower PSI with a bigger, than the bigger one. Yes, that is exactly correct. That is one of the great things about the mailbox is that it is a propane sipper as opposed to the big guy, which is a propane guzzler. There we go. I have a forge. Or I guess I have a flame. Is that what I'm trying to say? Haha! I have a forge going! There we go. Now let's move this piece of steel. So there is still some Atlantic 33 scale inside of the mailbox. So when it starts getting real hot, we're definitely going to see some green shift or color shift in the flame. Welcome in, Mahalo. It's always good to have multiple propane accessories for your propane. I tell you what. Thank you so much for those 100 bits. Thank you for that cheer. I always appreciate all of you guys' support. Thank you so much. For propane funds. Yes, thank you so much for that. I always appreciate any support that you guys are willing to give me, whether that's, you know, just watching the stream and talking with me or monetary funds as well. Thank you so much. You know what's the best part about the mailbox too is that it doesn't pump out near the ambient heat as the large forge. So the shop isn't going to get nearly as hot as it has been the past several streams because we've been using such a big forge. So less sweat, less water, you know. Let's keep it a little bit cooler. Although we're done with our first water already. Let me grab another drink from the water. Like bucket, jug. It's a jerry can. But I am super thrilled to be here today. This is going to be a fun project. I'm hoping, like I said, it's going to be a quick project. And then we can get back to doing more of the larger scale tools. So after this set of pickup tongs, my next project or our next project is going to be a folded axe head. So we used the punch and the drift on our hammerhead that we just finished up. But I don't have an axe head or an axe punch or an axe drift. But I still want to get an axe done by the end of the summer. So we're going to start with a folded axe first. That's going to give us a little bit of practice forge welding and putting that bit in there. So we're going to start with a lower carbon steel and put a high carbon bit in there. So you'll see some forge welding here in a few, you know, probably not next week, probably the week after. Because I'm expecting that project to take 2 to 3 weeks, somewhere in there. Once that axe head is done, we will actually start making the drifts and punches for a punched axe head. And after we've done those 2 tools, we will do another axe head with a punched hole. So that is the plan for the next few weeks. of propane running out. What's your thoughts on induction forges? I have never actually used one. I know that there are people that swear by them. I know that there are people who think that they are so convenient. But I've never used one, so I really don't have, I don't feel like I have the ability to form an adequate opinion on them. So I'm sorry. I mean, one of these days I'd love to get one in the shop to be able to play with it, but for the moment, I have to put my funds in the places that to the best bang for our buck. And unfortunately, a induction forge is not one place at right now yet. Have you seen the axes made from a large ball peen hammer? I've got a small hoard for that purpose. I definitely have seen those, and I will discuss that again after the ads are complete, because we've got ads in. Ooh, nice heat. In that few, in those few minutes, we've got a really nice lemon yellow piece of steel. It's gonna be amazing. It's nice and hot. I am gonna turn this down a little bit. Because it's a little bit on the high side. My belt. So I'm a little bit on the sweaty side. So pulling up my pants, sometimes it's a little extra work. All right. So again, as far as induction forges are concerned, I just don't feel like I have the knowledge or experience to give you a informed opinion on them. I know people who use them, they love them, and they have their uses. I definitely know that they have their uses, but I don't have the funds to put into one just yet. So until I have the opportunity to either play with one long enough to my satisfaction or to get one in the shop, I will probably reserve my opinion on them. They don't pump out as much ambient heat, I've heard, but like I said, I just don't have an opinion yet. Maybe in the future after we get to play with one. But we will get one eventually, I think. Have I seen the axes made from a large ball peen hammer? I've got a small hoard for just that purpose. I have actually seen the ball peen axes. Those are kind of neat. But I really want to make an axe from scratch. So that's what my plan is. I mean, in the future we might do a few, recycled pieces like that. And I mean, they can turn out amazing looking, right? But that's not on my list as of yet. This looks hot. It is hot. It's super hot. All right, let's do another heat. Much more better. Look at that. Woo! Yeah. Alright, so I'm going to move the close camera over a little bit so that we can start using the horn. to draw out the reins on this piece. I think that's about as thin as I want those reins for the moment. Once we're done drawing out the reins, we'll start on the bit. Woo. Super warm today. You know what? I totally forgot. I forgot to hit record on my cameras. Darn it. I hate when I do that. There we go. All right, so we're gonna move this over here so that the horn is a little bit more central. All right. The extra, well, I guess I'm just gonna brush the tongs right off. But the extra heat is giving me a little bit of extra scale, so I need to keep that clean, otherwise it's gonna jump up at me. Oh, yeah, that's definitely, ope is definitely a Midwestern, phrase. I grew up saying ope as opposed to oops. Ugh. Super warm today. Capture card is nice and cool. I've got its own, it has its own individual little fan so that it doesn't lock up on me anymore. But I still feel like I need to monitor it just in case. If you collect all that scale and send it off to an armor smith, would that make scale armor? Oh, scale mail. I mean, probably not. Not unless I took it in a mortar and pestle and turned it into like steel powder. And then you could totally do can Damascus with it, maybe. We could reforge it. There are ways. But I mean, I don't think I would want to use the individual scales as scale mail because, it wouldn't be very strong. All right, let's do some more effort or some more work on this guy. So we have the anvil horn should be relatively central here. So you guys should be able to get a nice view of this. Getting a little bit of twisting. I want to fix that up. All right. Green flame, yes. That is from the scale from the Atlantic 33. I thought the amount of scale you bang off the piece is due to the quality of the steel, as I thought, impurities, and oxygen too. So the amount of scale is because of the mix of oxygen to propane within my forge, right? So this is a self-aspirating forge. So there's a MIG welding tip inside of that teeth, like the reduction teeth. And so as it sprays the propane gas through that MIG tip, it also sucks oxygen through the hole. Because that hole is so big, it sucks a lot of oxygen through there. And it creates a lot of oxidation on the surface of the steel. And it also, the hotter I make that piece, I'm kind of burning out the tiny bit of carbon that's in that steel. This is a low carbon steel. It's 1019, so there isn't it's not like I'm really decarburizing it, but I kind of am a little bit. I've heard that scale is essentially hot rust, and it definitely is. It is 100% hot rust. So if I were to take a piece of really, really rusty steel and stick it inside the forge, if I brought it out, all of that rust would just flake off of it as scale. So that is exactly what scale is. It is hot rust. It also hurts quite a lot. If you can see all of these like little dots all over my arm, that is from scale jumping up onto my arm and burning me. So not pleasant. You want to make sure that you clean your steel as best you can before you work it. Or you'll end up with, you know, steel burns. Or I guess scale burns. Probably going to do a couple more courses here on the horn of the anvil, and then I'm going to move probably over to the press. It is so hot, and the hammer itself is a little bit on the heavy side for me, so I need to preserve a little bit more of my stamina, and so we might move over to the press here in a few heats. I hate the scale fox. Yeah, it's painful. And these ones look like track marks, and you know, people look at me weird. Definitely not what it is, but all right, we're gonna come over here and straighten out the parallelograms that we're starting to develop. Got a little bit of twisting. And I always have a lot of trouble keeping my sides square. So yeah. Goodness gracious. So, let's see. I told you that we went and got the van, and I even showed you guys the van. And we talked about the Ray Smithy sign. We talked about the new drill press. I'm really excited about the new drill press. I'm totally going to use it for these tongs. So you know how normally I would drift the rivet hole through the steel. This time, because I want to do this really fast, we're going to use the drill press. We're just going to drill the holes. Yes, we will lose a lot of material that we wouldn't necessarily lose if I were to drift them, but I want to get them done really fast. I'm really slow at drifting my holes because you know, just not amazingly good with it, and I'm always afraid I'm gonna smash my thumb. So we are going to cheat a little bit and use some power tools to speed us up. Because like I said, I really want to get into the axe making. You know, I promised you guys a finished axe by the end of the summer, and I only have like 1 month, maybe 1.5 months left of summer. You know, I got all of August, but you know, and maybe some of September if you count September as summer still. But I definitely promised you guys a full axe, or at least the head of one, and I intend to keep that promise. Sometimes speed is more important than being traditional, and that is definitely the case in this case. Because, like I said, I really want to get that axe done. My personal deadline for that project is halfway through September, and so we need to get moving. I don't have time for superfluous long projects. I also think that I'm going to use the nut method for the rivet itself. So if you put a nut on the top of your anvil and you put the rivet through your holes and into the nut, then that holds that straight so that you can create the first head. And then you get rid of the nut, you turn it over, and you can finish out the other head a lot easier. So that is the goal this time, is to create a really simplistic, rivet, or I guess pivot point, and, not have to redo it 6 times. All right, let's do another heat. Because I'm really bad at rivets, too. Woo! Look at that scale fly. That's going to make an amazing cover for my YouTube video, guys. Drawing out those reins. Yay, hot pepper. Exactly. I think because I'm talking to you guys and I'm focusing on talking to you as opposed to paying as close of attention to the mailbox, that's partially why I am getting as much scale as I am, because everything is just getting so much hotter very quickly. But I am also kind of taking my time a little bit because I want a little bit of recovery time between the heats. Time to breathe. Because, I mean, really, I could almost take the piece out right now and do my next heat. But I'm going to wait a little bit longer just so I can have a few extra breaths. So about 2.5 weeks ago, I was out here doing something. I don't even remember what it was. And I kind of overextended my right thumb. And ever since then, it's like you never know how often you use your thumb for like grip strength until you injure your thumb. And then it's just like shooting pain every once in a while. Only when it's like the pressure is in the wrong spot, you know, pushing backwards. But I mean, I was shaking people's hands last weekend when we were buying the van, and not pleasant. Could you lower the propane pressure a bit to slow it down between heats, or is it already really low? I can't really lower it much more than it currently is because if I lowered it any more, then it wouldn't, it would kind of start puffing, and that's not good. So it's pretty low already. But yeah, I have no idea what I did. I feel like maybe, you know, if I got a hand or a thumb brace to use, but I keep forgetting when I go out. Trying to straighten it up in between every heat so that I don't end up warping it too terribly badly. All right. And actually, I'm going to show you guys kind of how much we've actually grown. If you look at these guys, remember these were exactly the same size. So we've already grown a significant amount in that small a time. I hope your thumb feels better soon. Thank you. I hope so too. But I don't think it's going to happen if I keep jerking it like I keep doing. Like I said, I feel like I need like a brace or something maybe. I could probably use one when I'm not here in the forge. Dink, 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 yeah. So when I edit my videos, the VODs into my YouTube videos, I have this AI function in my editing software because I use DaVinci Resolve. And it actually will give me a transcript of everything that I've said throughout the entire VOD. And anytime that it hears me hammering, what it says is clank. So every hammer blow, it's like clanking. So that's why we have the clanking emote. Matchstick split, maybe. I mean, maybe. I feel like matchsticks are a little bit on the thin side. I have a tendency to like break them. So, I mean, yeah. If that's like an actual medical term, probably that might work. But I don't know for sure. Sandwich, I need to know why. Are you talking about the sandwich on the propane tank? Is that what you're asking? If that is the case, this propane tank was brought to us by Sandwich. Sandwich donated $25 to my KoFi and paid for this propane tank. So I have this propane tank labeled because Sandwich bought it for us. Next week's propane was brought to us by Tim, and Tim donated $25 to my KoFi and bought me a tank of propane. So I'm very grateful for that, and I wanted to acknowledge their contributions. So, yeah, we're putting signs on the propane tank. And if you would like to donate a propane tank, I'll put a sign on the propane for you. Sandwiches propane tank. The Lord Sandwich is very generous. Yes, Sandwich is very generous and also very intelligent. Sandwich is always has really good advice, you know? I must touch the brick portal. So colorful. Yeah. It is so colorful. Bow and curtsy. All right, let's do another heat. I totally missed. All right. I'm going to put this back in the heat, and then we're going to take a look at our cameras to make sure that they are still recording. Sure, endearing story, heartwarming, etc. But now I just want a sandwich. Advice about blacksmithing? I have never ever blacksmithed in my life. Well, you still have like good advice on, you know, I mean, you're the one that told me that instead of using the big forge, I should use the little one. That one seemed to work pretty well. You also told me that I should lower my press before I pulled the steel out of the forge. That was also pretty good advice. I have come here for the chat and the drinks. Both are simple pleasures, but both are good. Excellent. I'm so happy to hear that. I have so much fun with you guys. I like to hear that you guys have fun with me. I'm almost done with my second. Goodness gracious, it's warm today. All right. I'm going to do a couple more heats in the mailbox on the Horde of the Anvil, and then we're going to move over to the press because I need to start working a little bit on the jaws. Right now we're just drawing out the reins. The reins of the tongs are the handle section here. So once we turn this over, we will start working on the jaws of the tongs, which is this section right here. She should grill some meat on the forge too. Use that waste heat for some steak. We have done that before. I personally am not a big fan of that because there is so much dirt and steel dust in the air. I just don't want that in my food. I have so much steel like in my body already. I don't want to add to it. But I have seen people do that. People will do like grilled cheese sandwiches and, you know, marshmallows and things in the forge, and it works pretty well. You're a fun person. I'm glad I discovered your channel. Don't remember how. There are so many people who have raided me, and so maybe you came through a raid. I mean, Yankee and Kiri, and there have been so many other people who have also raided us, and everybody has been so helpful and so pleasant, and, you know, I enjoy the community that we're building. More flavor. New Su Verde. Not sure if all the fumes given off by the metal are all that healthy. They really aren't. I think it may have been YouTube. It could have been YouTube. I've gotten plenty of people from YouTube as well. We are about to get a ad incoming, so we're gonna wait until that ad is done, and then we'll do another heat on the horn of the anvil. Your channel was the only non-boring one on the maker subsection when I found you. I mean, some of the other channels are kind of on the boring side. I would say that the ones where it's just a 3D printer, but no one is talking, I find that a little bit on the boring side. I mean, I can totally see why someone might want to watch it, but that's just not for me. I try to make things a little bit more interesting. If I can manage it, sometimes I can, sometimes I can't. But I mean, I've got fire, so. All right, I'm gonna fill up my water while the ad is going on, and I will be right back. Whew. Sweaty, sweaty. All right, so I am back from getting water. So I'm getting to that point where my stomach is getting full of water, and I'm sweating it all out, but my stomach still feels a little on the full side. I hate when that happens. The green color in the forge is pretty intense today. It kind of is intense. Really, that's because there is still some Atlantic 33 scale inside the forge. And there's not a lot in there. And it's not producing too terribly many fumes. I can't smell it. It doesn't smell like anything. But yeah, there's just some chips of scale in the bottom of that forge from the Atlantic 33. I found you on a very random raid. The parameters were not porn and looks cool. They were right. Yeah. We don't do any of that stuff. Not here anyway. Alright, have I done the thing? I have. I changed the... Yeah, there we go. I keep saying that I'm going to go over to the press, and then I forget to do it. Let me move that there. So I have the profile that most of the profile that I want for those reins. I do have it, it's right now it's square. I want it to be rectangular. So we're going to focus on one side of this, but we're not going to do that just yet. I think what we're actually going to do is we're going to flip this guy around and heat up that section, which means we need to switch tongs. These are my lovely universal tongs. We made these together on stream. I've been playing too much WoW lately. Almost called it Fell Flame Forge. See, that makes sense. I've been playing a lot of WoW too. I've been playing retail though. A lot of people in the space have been playing classic, but I haven't. There's a part of me that really wants to play Pandaria Classic. because that was like my last major raid tier, but I haven't gotten around to it. Doesn't the green indicate some copper? It's the wrong, or it's my wrong thinky again. And it looks very cool. So Atlantic 33 has a lot of, what did we decide it was? It wasn't, what was it? It's not copper, although copper does burn green. It is another another element. Metals that burn green. Copper, barium, and boron are the most common culprits. Also, molybdenum or molybdenum, manganese. I think we decided it was manganese because manganese is often used to harden steels, but it is not actually in that piece of material in a high enough quantity to create noxious gases. Yeah, we decided it was manganese. And copper does have green flame. Yeah. You guys remember, you were here. Mahalo and sandwich, that is. All right. So, I'm going to grab my pickup tongs. This is kind of the generalized shape that I want these tongs to be. So we flipped them around. We have been working on the reins. So now we're going to start working on the jaws of the tongs. So I want them to stay this shape, but these are very rounded. So like the tips of them are really, really tiny where they actually make contact to the steel. So the steel flips around because there's just not enough friction. So we're going to make these little guys here. I'm just going to turn them into penny scrolls, right? So it's just like this little round, little penny-shaped section of steel, and then we're going to taper down the rest of these tongs. I want them to be rectangular because they're going to be a little bit stronger than this round, skinny stuff that I've got. CUBABMN and a few others. Yeah. Railroad spring clips have manganese too. Yeah, it is often added to steel. Oh, I didn't know I was clipping off the top of my head. I'll have to tilt my camera up in a few. Anyway, manganese is often added into steel alloys to increase the hardness without increasing the carbon content. So, you know, it's kind of, and if you put too much in it, it does create some noxious gases. It is one of the things that they, along with the zinc that they use for galvanization, and that stuff is nasty. But most of the galvanization process is adding zinc. You definitely do not want to forge zinc. That does create awful noxious gas. Don't do that. Also, chrome. Do not heat chrome. Chrome is worse than zinc. If you inhale chrome, that will stay in your body. It does not dissipate. Zinc will eventually dissipate. You will get sick, but you won't stay sick. But if you inhale chrome fumes, you will stay sick. And that stuff builds up into your system, and it is nasty. Don't do that. All right. Heavy metal poisoning is no joke. It definitely isn't. All right. I'm going to move the camera. But first, I'm going to tilt this guy so that I'm not cutting off the top of my head anymore. And then we're going to move this camera. So yeah, you just got to be really careful that you know or that you have a really good idea of what is in your steel when you are forging it. There is something to recycling and mystery metals, and you know, a lot of blacksmiths use them, but there are lists where you can get a much better idea of what things are made of. And I definitely recommend that. Just be really careful, guys. All right, so we're gonna move over to the press and do a few rounds there. Now we are concerned that the smithy is well ventilated. If you want to be horrified, just look up Karen Wetterhand. Yeah, I have. So earlier, I actually panned the camera around behind the camera, and you could see I have a garage door that is all the way open. I also have a door right here that is open, so I have a garage door, I have a regular door, I have an industrial fan over here, so we've got lots of air movement. I would be so sweaty, and I would not be able to forge nearly as long without the amount of ventilation that I have. All right, let's do another heat. I did. I hit the record button this time. Excellent. All right. We are suitably less concerned. Glowing robot hot dog production. Yeah, we've got a nice press going on. All right, because we are using the press and not the anvil, I'm actually going to tip up the fan so that it is flowing directly on me, because it is starting to get real hot today. What are we at? Hour 20. Not bad, not bad. We're getting a decent amount of work done. I'm pretty happy with the amount of effort that we have already expended, with the amount of work that we've gotten done. I have in the past gotten a lot less work done in a lot more time. But I think we're having a good old time. A good old time. I can't help thinking a wheel would be a better solution to operating that press. One that you use is a tad sketchy. I mean, it definitely is. But there's a little, like, I don't know, T. So there's like a little knob, and then it has like a T, like a little tabby on either side, and those guys have a tendency to bend over time. And so the reason I have not welded the handle to the little T is because I want to be able to replace that little nub when it bends enough that it just the handle doesn't fit on it anymore. And it is kind of a consequence of designing the press in the way that I did. There are a lot of other presses that you can either buy or make with different designs, and some of them function a lot better. They certainly will function a lot faster. This one's a little bit on the slow side. Typically, when I am doing videos for YouTube, I will actually speed up the footage to double time, but because we are live, I can't do that. Donating will help. I mean, yeah. It's a small roll pin. They do bend pretty easy. They definitely do. And like I said, I mean, they normally. So this guy actually came with this, right? So it's basically the same shape, but and then you have to kind of twist it to turn it on and off. And this was awful. I hated it. So I kind of just cut off the end and I welded on a lever. And this works 100 times better than this one ever did. And so, you know, that's how I came up with this solution. I did almost weld on this guy on my last one because this is my second bottle jack. But just as I was about to weld it on, the little pin it bent, so I had to replace it. And I'm like, well, I guess I can't weld it. So this is the solution that I have at the moment. There will be a time where, you know, when I start making more regular money for the channel, and I will, every time I get an influx of money, I do put that right back into equipment, into consumables, into the stream and the YouTube channel to make things more, or operate more smoothly. So eventually I will, you know, that may be in our future, a new press that works a little bit faster, or, you know, something like that. But at the moment, seems to me a very poor quality design press. Was it cheap? And that is why she is a blacksmith. So this actually is a Harbor Freight 20-ton press. It is designed for a hand pump, not an air or like a compressed air pump. So I actually cut a bunch of stuff off of this, and back when I made this guy, like it was like 10 years ago, and blacksmithing equipment wasn't as readily available as it currently is. Coal forge works was not a thing like it is today. Like, they are amazing. The guys over at Coal Iron Works, they do brand new pneumatic presses, brand new pneumatic power hammers, and they're based in Indiana. But back then, when I built this, they weren't a thing yet. So, or at least they weren't a thing that I was aware of at the time. So I did what I could, you know, doing all of the research that I could get a hold of on the internet. At the time, I did not have enough money to buy a little giant, and I also could not afford the shaking and the noise in my neighborhood. So this was the solution that we came up with. You have to start with something and improve later. Exactly. Blacksmiths makes the tools they can and make do with the ones they need to buy. Yeah. So I'm 100% a proponent of if you find that you need a tool, but you're not sure how much you're going to need the tool, or and you don't know if you like it or not yet, buy the cheapest version possible. Use it until it breaks, and then upgrade. And this is actually an upgrade from the original press. So it was a lot less squishy, I guess. So, and then Mahalo donated so that we could buy a new bottle jack, and it works a lot better than it used to. let's do another heat. But yeah, when I get influxes of funding, I put them into new equipment. I just bought a new drill press. And I bought the new drill press with funds that I got from subscriptions and bits and ad revenue from Twitch. So when I get Twitch payouts, I pool that money up, and when I get enough of it, we can buy new pieces of equipment. I knew it was hacked together and agree that that's what I value here. I meant the actual Red Jack article. If that's the spec for them, it seems poor. I mean, I did go and I looked at all of the different jacks that would fit in there, and that was actually the one that had the highest amount of reviews. It is a lot better than the previous one that I bought for this press. So it is actually an upgrade. I only agree with this strategy if and when necessary financially. Good tools are simply fun. So if affordable, I would not actually start with the cheapest one, but with a decent one. I'm not talking about blacksmithing here though, as I have, as I said, never done that. Oh, and I totally forgot to switch my cameras. Yeah, I mean, if you know that you're going to, that, like, so if you already know that you absolutely love woodworking and you need a new tool, that you just need it and you know you're going to need it, there's no reason to buy a cheap version of like a router or something. If you know that you're going to be using it a lot and you already know that you like woodworking, right? But if you don't know that you're gonna like it, then yeah, buy the cheapest version of it so that you're not putting the money that you could be doing something that you love into something that you hate, you know? But here, I had to get to a point where I was up and functional because I just did not have the stamina to do hand hammering all the time anymore. And this takes a lot of effort away from me, you know? So all I really have to do is stand and, you know, turn my wrist a little bit as opposed to all of the effort that I have to do when, you know, hand hammering things. So, I mean, it's still an improvement. But yeah, you guys are right. And, you know, if you know that you're going to need something and, you know, there's no reason not to get the cheap version if you know you're going to use it a lot and you know that you like it. As an example, some years ago, I bought a nice oscilloscope for what I use it for. A cheap one would do, but it was more fun. And I mean, yeah, if you've got the funding, why not? Welcome in. Oh my God, Pete1. Welcome to the stream. Thank you so much for that follow. Welcome to the community. We are here, we are blacksmithing, and we are having fun. Thank you guys for your viewership. An expensive tool that you can do without is simply expensive. An essential tool is almost always cheap. Yes. Uh, Even a Luddite doesn't disapprove of what the mechanical advantage, just its application. Yeah, I mean, like I said, I it would have been better if I had gotten a better version of the press, but overall, this press was $500, and I put it together myself. I bought it from Harbor Freight, which is a discount tool location. If I were to buy a press from Coal Iron Forge, that is absolutely amazing. It works beautifully. It will work for many, many, many years. I will never have to like replace it because you can repair them and they'll come out and help you with it. That would cost me over $2,000, even for their smallest one. So at the time, I didn't have a lot of funds. I'm not made of money. I'm not amazingly rich. You know, before I became a professional blacksmith, I worked at a fast food restaurant and a jewelry store. I don't make a lot of money doing that. So I get what I can, and I'll work my way up as I start making money, you know? What are you working on today? And good enough is good enough. Today we are making a set of pickup tongs. Where did I put them? Oh, they're right over here. So this is a set of pickup tongs right here. But we use these to make a hammerhead over the last 2.5 weeks. And these didn't pick up this piece of heavy steel very well. It was constantly spinning around and it just wasn't very conducive to working. So I'm going to make another set that is sturdier and better put together. So that's what we're doing today. Perfection is the enemy of progress. I mean, you have to suck before you're perfect. You know, practice makes perfect. So, I mean, I like the press. I think it works pretty well for what I needed to do. And when I have the money and the funds, I'll upgrade. But it has to be the right time. How many hours are you in on the hammerhead? This guy we did 8 sessions. I usually do about 2.5 hours per session. One of those sessions was only an hour. So 16, 17 hours-ish, somewhere in there. There is buy what you need for the money you have. On the side note, buy cheap, buy twice on the other side. The phrase is often attributed to Voltaire, though Winston Churchill is also credited with popularizing it. It's a reminder of taking imperfect action is often better than waiting for the perfect moment, which may never arrive. Yeah. So, if you guys are familiar with Terry Pratchett, one of his characters, um, like the sheriff of the town, he talks about boots, right? And he always buys cheap boots, and within 6 months his boots leak, right? And if he were to spend the extra money to buy good boots, he'd only have to buy boots once every 5 years. But because he buys the cheap boots, he has to buy them every 6 months. But, you know, if you can't afford the large, you know, expense of the good boots, then, you know, you buy what you can. All right, let's do another heat. Sam Vimes is the character's name. Okay, we've got some ads going. Ads. I do have people who have subscriptions, and so I do need to actually talk while the ads are going. I need to remember that, you know. The bad part about living, being in a blacksmith shop is, when you like hammer or when you nail your hip on the horn of the anvil, always a pain. So yeah, the Sam Vimes Terry Pratchett boot theory. Um, this is what I mean. Buy what you can. Buy a higher quality if you can, or just mug the rich guy and take his shoes. I mean, you know, then you'll be meeting Sam Vimes, while he arrests you. Well, this is another option if you can get away with it. Oh, thank you so much, Dewey Loan. Thank you so much for that subscription. Thank you so much for that support. I greatly appreciate that. As we've been talking about, I put all of the money that I earn through subscriptions, KoFi, and ads, bits. I put all that money into new tools and equipment and, consumables so that we can continue the stream. Thank you so much for your support. Now I will never hear you talk about Terry Pratchett, and that makes me sad. They used that theory in my Econ 101 class in college. Yeah, and I mean, a lot, like in econ class, a lot of times they'll call it the poor man's tax. Where if you're poor, you don't have the money to buy high quality goods and services, and so you end up buying the poor quality, and that causes you to have to redo that more frequently. So yeah, it's so true. Alrighty. Gonna do another heat, but we're gonna do that on the press because we're starting to get a little bit of warpage, and I want to make sure that our crinkle fries are nice and straight. So we're gonna move the camera. I need to hear you talk about Sam Vimes, Terry Pratchett's boot theory. So a subscription is required. Yeah, I didn't really talk about it too much. I can talk about it again. I am more than happy to talk about Terry Pratchett more than one time. Terry Pratchett is a favorite author of my partner. But I am sorry to say that I have not actually read many of the books. I think I've only read the first one in the Death series. But I have watched a lot of the shows and like the movies from the BBC. So I know, shame on me for not actually reading the books. Rather explodes any idea of trickle down. It definitely does. There is a reason they call it trickle down theory instead of flood down, because the guys at the top take it all. I mean, capitalism do. But I am going to. I'm gonna. We are not there yet, but I would rather not talk about politics or religion in chat. So we're starting to like dust into a few areas that could be more controversial, and I want everyone to be, I don't want any arguments about that sort of thing. So you guys aren't there yet, but we're eking towards that direction. So I'm just gonna cut that off right now. You are forgiven. You have imbibed the important bits. Yeah. I agree. All right. Okay, so we're gonna do another heat. Whoa. We've got a lot of scale going on, so I'm gonna clean that off real fast so that it does not burn me. And we're getting more scale anyway. Look at that. Jeez. All right, back in the fire. We're gonna spend a little bit more time here on the anvil to kind of shape that out a little bit. We got the majority of the drawing down done on the press. Clean off the dragon scale. Exactly. It's like I cleaned it off and then more scale happened, so I need to sweep this floor because it's covered in scale now. It's like really slick because all of that scale, when I step on it, it starts turning into dust. And then, no matter how much tread you have on your boots, when there's so much dust there, it's still a tripping hazard. It sucks when I'm walking around and like my boot comes out from under me because there's just so much scale all over the floor. Most cultures have some sort of mythology of dragons, but no dragons have ever been found. Did dinosaurs roam longer than we thought? Are aliens among us, or are we in the Matrix? I mean, I'm not going to say that old or ancient cultures didn't, see fossilized bones. Because, I mean, we find fossilized bones modern or like now, but they were finding fossilized bones in like the 1800s and stuff, with less technology. They didn't have sonar technologies and things like that. I think that some of the old or ancient cultures actually did see, fossils. And, I think that's partially where dragons could have come from, The iron dragons are shedding. They are. All right, so I have done my third water. And that means that I need to grab a Gatorade so that I can refresh my electrolytes because I'm just sweating so badly. So give me just 1 second and I will be right back. Gatorade. We're going to do blue today. I have 2 different kinds of blue and a red today. Humans are the storytelling ape. They are creatures of imagination. 20 inches or so, I was impressed how much better the steel was moving in the letterbox thingy. But the last pass, reduction equals scale displacement to a large extent. Does this count as a sauna stream? I mean, maybe. But yes, every time I lose scale, I am losing material. So I am losing a decent amount of material this time because there's a lot of rust happening in the forge today. The forge is hot. It demands water sacrifice. It definitely does. All right, let's do another heat. I mean, I guess technically it is kind of sauna-y in here today. All right. So what I have started doing right here is we are now starting to isolate that tip section. That's about the size that I want. So we are going to shelf that or isolate that piece. You can kind of see where I've put that over the edge and created that little like indent. So we are going to, or that is the tip section for the jaws of the tongs, and we're going to continue working that. Sorry, the amount surprised me. Yeah, I mean, that's probably because, well, I'm running really, really hot right now, and there's a lot of oxygen coming in through the self-aspirated area of the forge. It's not amazingly well regulated. These are both really old designs. You can actually buy much more efficient and much more reduced scale forges on like Amazon now. So you can see the scale on the anvil, and most of the scale doesn't land on the anvil. Yeah. Usually it mostly lands on the ground underneath. If you could see the floor around the anvil, you'd see the amount of scale that's there. But I mean, the hotter the piece of steel, the more scale you're going to get too. So like this is getting up to forge welding temperatures. So if you were to watch people who are making Damascus steel, like Alex Steel or some of the other knife makers that do Damascus steel, you'll see a lot of scale coming off of their billets. You lose about 20% of your material when you're making Damascus steel because of the loss from scale as well as surface grinding. So you kind of have to factor that in. The amount of scale is less than the iron loss since Fe3O4 and steals the oxygen out of the air, right? Yes, it does steal the oxygen out of the air. So all of that scale is rust. So it is iron oxide. It is not just iron. So yeah, we are losing a significant or a small amount of steel, but we're not losing as much steel as we could be. Sorry, more than the iron loss. Yeah. We're getting sciencey all up in here. I love that. I have always wanted to like take a metallurgy class. But when I went to college, they didn't let you in metallurgy unless you were in the engineering department. So I learn what I can from, metallurgists that I talk to and from the internet and stuff. Alrighty. But yeah, we're gonna do another heat real fast. offset this so that it gets a little bit on the shorter side, because I want it to be kind of a penny shape. Dang it. Scale got in the crease of my hand again. That is the worst. All right. So I need to take this drawn out section and bring it back a little bit further. And I also need to thin this out a little bit further, or a little bit more, because I need this to be just a little bit longer. So if we go over here to the pickup tongs, I kind of want them to be about the same length. So I need to draw some of this out and make it a little bit thinner. I definitely want these to be rectangular as well. So we'll keep going. We're getting there though. So is casting iron steel into pre-made shapes more efficient since you skip or reduce the forging steps and reduce the scale loss? Let me think about that for a moment. Okay, so it is very, very difficult to cast in steel, right? You have to have the correct equipment and the correct like heat or like heating apparatus and the correct molds and things like that. There are very few steel casting facilities in the United States. There are plenty like in China and some other areas, but it's very difficult to cast steel. It's relatively doable to cast iron, and that is just straight iron, like cast iron, I guess. So it really depends on what you are trying to do. So yes, it is incredibly more efficient to cast the materials for a hammerhead or for a pair of pliers or whatever you're trying to do, because you can do that in bulk in a factory in, like India or China or some places in the United States. There's probably some in Canada. I think Mexico has a few foundries. So yeah, that's why you can buy cheap pairs or cheap tools and cheap like metal parts. But we're mostly doing this for the fun of it, I guess, or the process. When I was at university over here, which is also now 20 years ago, I am old. You could walk into any lecture you wanted. To sign up for exam, you needed to be enrolled for some program, but you needed to listen and took only the trip to the right lecture hall. Yeah, they want you, in the United States, they want you to pay for all your classes because they want to make money. Money, money. A lot of universities in the United States are for profit. But yeah, so I mean, it's like, what are you trying to accomplish with your processes? Yes, it's more efficient to do cast steel work, but you have to have much more specialized tools to do so. But I'm a blacksmith because I enjoy blacksmithing, and there's a zen to it, and I want to keep the tradition alive as well. Back at my university, you could audit classes by sitting in, but you couldn't earn credit without registering. And I mean, most of there were several courses that you could do that in my university, but the engineering school was a specialized school. So the engineering school and the um, pharmacy school, they actually have, they're like actually separate schools. So you pay your tuition to a separate entity. So you can't really audit engineering or pharmacy classes. There are other classes that you can audit, but they don't like you to. They actually, if you're auditing a class, they'll actually make you pay a small fee. You had to be enrolled at the university theoretically, but I was never asked for any identification at entrance. So if someone just walked in, probably no one would have known. What university did you go to? I went to Southern Illinois University, Edwardsville. So there's also the Southern Illinois University, Carbondale. So Edwardsville is a smaller campus. And One True Maxon went to University of Hawaii. Ooh, I want to go to Hawaii. Are you still in Hawaii or did you leave? I'm going to do another heat while we've got the heat. All right. I see what's happening. All right, guys. If you smell a smell that is not right in a shop, make sure you stop and take a look. I smelled paper burning. And I found a napkin that was on fire. So I stamped it out. We're good to go. But never ignore a weird smell. Never ignore a weird smell in a blacksmith shop. It's too expensive back home, though. Now I live in Los Angeles, so it didn't get much better. Yeah, Los Angeles is really expensive as well. You were born and raised there, but left after college. I was considering that when I was in high school. Carbondale, I think. It's, yeah, stuff is too expensive back in Hawaii. So my sister-in-law lives in Hawaii. And every time she comes to visit, we make a lot of trips to like Walmart and Target and all of her favorite stores. Because she buys a whole bunch of like clothes and other essentials and ships them back home because it's too expensive to buy it in Hawaii. So when she's on the mainland, she buys all the things that she can't buy, or that she shouldn't buy there. Yeah. Trader Joe's snacks and candies. That stuff is like crack back home. They can't get enough of it. Some people were left without a sense of smell by COVID-19. This is more of a hazard than one might think on first glance. I guess I also caught something on the edge of burning by smell more than once. Yeah, and I mean, I had COVID myself. That was not one of the symptoms that I had. I am very grateful that I never lost my sense of taste or smell, but that does happen with COVID. But yeah, some scale flew off of the piece of steel and landed on a a napkin that was on the floor over there. I didn't even know that napkin was on the floor over there, and it started a fire. And so you stamp it out and you go on. I also have two fire extinguishers over there. So if it was more out of control than something that I could just stomp out, we would have seen me get those. But they're very readily available on that wall over there. I was born with almost no sense of smell. Oh, that is sad. Sandwich lost both, but only for a week. Luckily, it's not nice. Yeah, I imagine. Easy money as a garbage man without a sense of smell. I mean, I suppose that would be sort of true. I still feel like I would feel disgusting at the end of a garbage man shift. But I feel disgusting at the end of a blacksmithing shift, so, you know, I take a shower anyway, so, I don't know. Maybe that's what I should have done. No blacksmithing, we'll just be a garbage man. Alright, I'm going to do another heat. But first I'm going to make sure that I flip my clips so I get all of the juicy footage, the clean stuff. I like you guys to be able to see both camera views live, but I feel like I need clean visuals for YouTube. All right, nice. We're getting there, slowly, slowly. A little bit of twisting, so I'm gonna fix that. All right, more heat. Whew. At my parents' house, I smelled something hot. Took a lump in the vicinity of, or a lamp in the vicinity apart. It was pretty crusty on the inside. It would have eventually have caught fire. I don't know. We didn't try it, but we swapped it out. That makes so much sense. I always, if I smell something weird, even if I'm not in the blacksmithing shop, I have to figure out what it is, you know, because I really don't want to set my house on fire, you know. So occasionally you will smell like, you know, like bad wiring or whatever, and I've actually come and found some that could have started a fire, and you know, I fixed it or had it fixed. I use my cat as a home alarm when he is sleeping on my chest and then wakes up and bolts. Someone is walking up to my door. I mean, my cat sometimes will do that, but not all the time. I think it depends on who it is. Woo! Super hot. All right, so we got an ad coming up here shortly. So I will wait until that ad is done for our next heat. We've got a few more heats that we need to do. I want to spend a little bit more time on those reins and draw them out a little bit more. I also need to make sure that I thin out the boss, which is the section that you drill the hole for the rivet. And then I also have a little bit more finessing to do with the jaws of the tongs. I want to kind of make an upset corner, or a couple of upset corners, to make sure that the corners are nice and strong and it doesn't move on me when I'm hanging on to pieces of steel. My cat is scared of everything. My cat is pretty brave. I love my cat. He's adorable. I have an orange tabby, and I think I've posted about him a couple times on, or once, at least once on Instagram. He's an orange tabby. He's super smart. He actually does tricks. I will read that comment in a few. I'll also talk a little bit more about my kitty after the ad is done. Kitty, kitty. He's totally gonna hear that and be like, Mommy, come in the house. Feed me. Every time I end stream, he always wants me to feed him. I'm like, no, you have like an hour. All right. So I have an orange tabby cat. He's super, super smart. He actually does tricks. He has 7 that he can do. He can turn around. He can roll over. He can shake a paw. He jumps up on your shoulder. He does a focus where you hold up the treat and he just like looks at you. And he is super, super smart. In one case in my apartment, I looked for the burnt smell and could not find it. Days later, someone came to visit and pointed at the doorbell and asked, "Is that normal?" It was not. The thing had completely burned up. I did not manage to look up there. Wow. That's crazy. My dog acts like she's starving an hour after eating. Yeah, my cat is super food motivated. That's kind of how we taught him to do tricks because he's like super into getting the treats, and so he'll like follow the treat around or do whatever we want him to do in order to get that treat. Super food motivated. But yeah, he loves, as soon as I go in the house at the end of the stream, he's like, feed me, feed me, feed me. And it's usually like an hour away from his food time. Like a cat, but a cat can do this while there's still food in the bowl. Yes. Not sure if other cats are able to do tricks or just decide they don't want to. Cats are so able to do tricks, but oftentimes they do decide they don't want to do them. Cats only want to do the things that they want to do. But you can, like, if you have a sufficiently food or pets motivated cat, you can totally get them to do tricks. Is the flame green or the lens or just me? The flame is green. There is, what did we say it was? Barium? I think, no. I can't remember what it is, but there is there's scale from a different type of steel in there, and that is what is turning the flame green. Manganese, yes. Why do I always say barium? It's manganese. All right. Okay, so we've got a good section here for the boss. I really want to take that a little of it and bring it back to the reins. I also need to put the bends in here. So we're probably going to do that relatively soon here. I think that's probably the next thing that we're going to do is put the bends for these pickup tongs. I want to bend the tongs so that they're this shape. So that's probably what we're going to do our next heat. Whew. burns green with envy. Exactly. This is lore now, yes. So it shall be written in the book of Ray, yes. The fire is green with envy. The small forge is jealous of the big forge. Yes. Thank you. I had to look that up. Makes sense now. Yeah. So previously, I was forging this guy right here, and what this is a alloy of steel called Atlantic 33, and it is a hardenable steel that is low carbon. So it uses the manganese to harden the steel, and manganese burns green. So all of the scale from this forging is still in the bottom of the forge, and that's why it turns green. Or like, you know, the scientific reason. I mean, it's probably just jealous of the big one. Slowly but surely, I start doubting the scale from the other place theory. If there is scale of the forge causing the color, why is the green color gone when you remove the piece? It is because what the flame is rotating in there, and the piece is inhibiting the vortex a little bit, and it's actually causing the sides of the flames to bring up that color. So it's just because of the way that the piece interrupts the vortex. Ray is extremely good at not quite touching the extremely hot metal. Signs of an experienced blacksmith. Yeah. It is gone because it is no longer envious. Yeah, so I will try and clean out the forge before I start it up. For our next stream, I'll just kind of like tip it all out, or like all of the scale that's in there out, and we'll see if it changes the color. Because I mean, I guess there is always a chance that I'm wrong, but I've never seen the green color until we put that Atlantic 33 in there. I'll take your word for it. Okay. I do. I really think it's because of the way that the steel is interrupting that vortex. I mean, I can't. There's always a chance that I'm wrong, because I'm not a metallurgist and I don't design forges. Or I mean, I do design forges, but like not in a scientific way. So it's only an educated guess. Most of my stuff here is very educated guessy because I am primarily a self-taught blacksmith. I have had a few like 1 week long workshops that I've done, but a lot of this I taught myself. All right, another heat. All right. Move it like that. We're gonna do a little bit of upsetting for these corners, which means that I'm gonna have to use or start using the quench bucket a little bit, to get a more precision heat. But that's what we want to see, just like so. We're gonna put another corner right there. But that's a pretty decent angle for that. We shall see if I can actually get this in here. There's a chance that I can. Oh, look at that. We're going to have some trouble, it looks like. Move that in there. We'll see what we can do. I might have to wait and start the other forge. Ray makes a lot of scale and has colorful flames around her, and yet she denies that she's not a dragon. This looks like an insect's leg. It kind of does. I mean, I could be a dragon. But if I'm a dragon, then what is my horde? Is it my blacksmithing equipment or is it you guys? It does kind of look like an insect leg, though. For the moment, anyway. So, yeah. If I'm a dragon, what's my horde? Alright. So, we've got a lot of progress on that, that half of the Tong. So on Wednesday, we're going to start doing this guy. And I'm going to see how far we can get on this guy. There will be a little bit of finessing that we will have to do on Friday for both of these, just to make sure that they fit together properly. But yeah, I'm pretty happy with the amount of progress that we've gotten. I still have a few more heats that I want to do, but we are starting to round into the end of the project for the day. Fortunately, you do not seem very dragony. She's not denying it. Dragon confirmed. I don't know. See, I am more inclined to think that my cat is a dragon. You know, he lays around all day and sleeps on top of his toys. And he demands loyalty and servants, and he's very protective of me. See, that seems a little bit more dragony to me, but, you know, if you guys want to tell me, or, you know, call me a dragon, I'm not going to, you know, it could be a compliment. I could take that. All right, so we're not getting a lot of heat on that corner. I'm a little sad by that. But we're going to see what we can do. Let's see what we can do. It's not too bad. I don't have a really crisp outside corner, but we're getting a decent crisp interior corner. So I'm gonna do a couple more heats of that. We're also going to flatten that out a bit. This whole thing we're gonna eventually flatten out, but this area right here specifically we're gonna flatten out a bit. What do we got here? Will there be a point in this working of it that you will no longer lose scale? No. I will always lose scale every heat. There is an auto mod. What was your message? The term dragon is also used in English for a person in German. It's always used to... I see. Okay. Well, I'm going to allow that because that is a weird message. Or like the auto mod. That was a really weird message for the auto mod to, like, you know. You should be able to see and reject or approve it. Yeah, I accepted it. For the moment. Yeah, I did not know that in German it would be that way. So I don't know. Maybe it would be a bad thing for me to be a dragon. So it is not used in that way in English. Well, I mean, so there are times where people will say that a person is dragoning stuff, but that's more of a slang term that is kind of developed in internet culture. It's like they hoard stuff, or like they gather stuff and keep it, and I guess they do gatekeep it. But I mean, that's more of like internet slang. Wow, I had in my head from before just how recyclable steel is practically. Say a steel tower demolish, how viable is and will that steel be when reworked? So it is actually really, really reusable, right? Especially for buildings, right? Because the amount of scale that I produce in a forge is so much greater than the amount of scale that is produced in industrial capacities. And if you have the correct setup, you can actually recycle steel relatively efficiently. It's about as efficient as recycling, or it's more efficient than recycling aluminum, because most of the aluminum that we recycle comes from cans, and the inside and outside of aluminum cans has plastics and waxes to prevent sodas from eating away at that material. So there's more dross from aluminum than there is from steel. Drake is not a slur. I would not call you a dragon, as it would not see, or as I would not see it as a compliment. Okay. The only issue with steel is usually the concrete it's embedded in. Yes. Typically, you would call an unfriendly receptionist at a doctor's office a dragon, or your professor's secretary. Oh, okay. So I have heard people say stuff like that, but that's not in common parlance in English right now. But yeah, if it's a slur in some languages, we won't use it. Goodness gracious. So much liquid today. So yeah, you learn stuff every day. All right, I'm gonna do another heat. We're gonna do a little bit more upsetting on that corner, and then we'll probably start squishing it a little. All right. Ouch. All right, that should be a pretty strong corner right there. So we're gonna start working on a corner that's about right there. And so that we can kind of bring that up this direction, we want a pretty shallow angle. So I'm gonna put this in here like so. Ray's not a gatekeeper. Knowledge is freely shared. Yeah. Still, I do not know what triggered the automon, especially on Twitch, where it is often about gaming. The German word for dragon should come up regularly with its original meaning, I guess. I don't know. That's really weird. I don't know why. So over time, the bad thing about having over-the-ear headphones is over time the headphones get squished into the side of my head and it starts hurting a little bit. But these are sound canceling headphones, and so I need the sound canceling because I've got the fan here and the forge, and it's very, very loud, especially the ringing of the anvil. Let me try again. Drink gin. Nope. I don't know. That's weird. Ray is worryingly good at not quite touching the glowing hot metal. Well, okay, so the glowing hot metal actually has an ambient heat temperature. So, and it radiates heat off of the steel. So I can feel where it is safe to touch and where it's not safe to touch. And I will tell you that there are times where I will touch the hot metal and burn myself by accident anyway. You know? It happens. I try not to. I do my best. Why do I keep picking this up? Pain is an effective teacher, I guess. Yes, pain is an effective teacher. Well, sometimes it is because I'm constantly trying to like touch black metal and it's hot. Black metal is the most dangerous thing in a shop, in a blacksmith shop, right? So this is black metal. It's not glowy hot, but if I were to touch the tips, it would burn me. Over here, not so much. But from about here to about, I don't know, about yay, if I touched it, it would burn me. Even though I can't really feel the ambient heat coming off of it, and you can't see a color that indicates it's hot. It is hot. Hey, Abadocious, welcome to the stream. We're getting a little bit closer to finishing up for the day. However, we still have a few more heats left. I want to finish my second corner, and I kind of want to shape the boss a little bit further. So we're getting close, but we're not quite there yet. Dangerous thing is dangerously dangerous. I mean, yeah. All right, we're gonna do another heat. I want it to be a little less than that. Let's take a look at our other tongs. Where'd they go? They're right there. Still a little bit too much. Too much of a corner. We want a corner, but we don't want like a lot of corner. So we got to be a little bit on the careful side. I think that's probably how I want to go. It's probably the shape we want. So I want to upset this corner a little bit, and yeah. Let's see if we can't like get this back in here a little bit further this time. Oh my God, Pete, thank you so much for that subscription. Thank you so much for your support. Awesome. Thank you so much. I am so grateful. Goal complete. Subscriber goal achieved. Yay! Awesome. Thank you so much for your support of the channel. Welcome to the community. I hope you're having fun. I sure am. I have so much fun here in the shop, and you guys make it even more fun. I used to come out here and do this all day, every day, all by myself. And, you know, it was a little bit boring. I used to listen to music, but that was about it. You guys make this entertaining. My kind of stream. Excellent. Thank you so much. I'm glad that you enjoy the stream. I do my best to make it entertaining and, you know, give you guys something fun to watch. All right. I am out of Gatorade and I'm out of water. I'm going to go and refill my water real fast. And I'm probably not going to drink the whole thing, but I still need a little bit of water. I will be right back, guys. It's going so slow coming out of here. Ah! I lost my other water container. I have a water container over here that I use to keep water for quenching stuff that I'm grinding. And I dropped it on the floor. Luckily, it was empty. All right. Last water. Same here. Be right back, too. All right. Oh, goodness gracious. Okay. So ads are about to start. So once those ads are done, I'll do a couple more heats. And then we'll probably raid out because I'm starting to get really, really warm and I need to take a shower. But in the meantime, we've got an ad that's going to play. Thank you guys so much for watching the ads because the ads also support me, you know? So even if you can't afford to subscribe, watching the ads supports me as well. Thank you so much. Metal bashing chat is entertaining. Hydration of Ray is good bonus. Yes. I try to hydrate as much as possible because back, I don't know, maybe like, it had to have been at least 7 years ago. I did not hydrate enough 1 year over the summer while I was forging, and I got kidney stones. And once you get kidney stones, they just keep coming back and coming back. And I refuse to be in that much pain again. So, water. All the water. Whew. So, after these next couple of heats, I am going to go in the house and take a shower, get into the AC. It is super, super hot today, and the forge only makes it worse. So I will be back on, what day is it? It's Monday. Wednesday. I will be back on Wednesday, and yeah, I will hope to see you guys then. Ad time, ad time. not the kidney stones. No one deserves that much pain. I agree. I hate kidney stones. I would not wish that on my worst enemy. That is a horrible pain. It was bad enough for me, and I hear kidney stones is worse for men. As they're almost done. So, we will be doing another heat. This heat, we are going to be doing a little bit of upsetting. I really want to kind of strengthen these corners so that they don't bend as I am picking up large chunks of steel. So by upsetting the corners really nice, it will strengthen them. And then I won't have to worry about them bending like our other set. All right, so we are out of ad time. So let's do another heat. I think I cooled it off a little bit too far this time. All right. Starting to get a little bit better. All right, let's heat this up again. Whew. Ray has learned not to not touch hot metal and hydrate sufficiently. I try. I have to sleep. Thank you and have a nice day. Have a wonderful night sandwich. Thank you so much for joining us. Sleep well. I'm getting pretty tired myself. It is too early for me to go to bed, but taking a nice cool shower is going to help quite a lot. And then I get to relax. Yes. All right. Like I said, a couple more heats. Some of this we will have to do on the large forge. Like, we're really going to have to work on the boss in the large forge because it just won't fit in there now that the bends are in there. But yeah, we're going to do another heat and we're going to see what happens. Working in the heat is twice as exhausting. It definitely is. Time to wash some of that scale. Yep. Gotta wash the scales, or at least sweep them. Sweepy, sweepy. Alright. Let me see about hammering this direction. Alright, we're going to thin this out a little bit. And like I said, that is actually also going to straighten this up and make sure that it is nice and strong. And that it won't bend on us. That is the worst, is bending when your tongs bend on you. Alright. So I think I'm going to leave this here for the day. And like I said, I will be back on Wednesday. We're going to take a look at this guy right here, kind of make that same shape. I also want to lengthen this rein section so that they are longer. And yeah, we're going to keep on keeping on. I think we're still on track to be able to finish this on Friday. So thank you guys so much for all of your follows, your subscriptions, for joining me today and watching the stream. I had so much fun. I hope you guys also had fun. And like I said, we'll be back on Wednesday. Thank you for streaming. Very educational. Excellent. I'm glad you liked it. See you next time. Have a good evening. See. Ray is worryingly good at not touching the glowing and not quite glowing metal. I do my best. Alright, is anybody online? Well, none of my friends are online. So let's make some new friends. You know what? Yeah. Let's see. Who do we got? Oh, I lied. Mr. Bimbani is our friend. And he's online. Let's do that. Thank you guys so much. I will see you later on Wednesday.